Welcome to Westworld Chat. We had another episode, episode 3 of season 3, and I'm joined by Eckhart and Third Ball Down. How's it going, guys?
Good.
A little to the left. Forget it. No, it's going good. I like the episode a lot. I don't know what you guys thought.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun episode.
Yeah.
No, I didn't expect there to be that much. I mean, it was Charlotte-centric, but I expected it to be more Charlotte-centric. That's why it ended up being so enjoyable, because it wasn't that Charlotte-centric after all.
I kind of felt the same way. Again, just each episode going to be about a certain character, but I like how it was about Charlotte, but they had so much else going on that made the episode really interesting.
Yeah, the absence of Charlotte actually made it good.
Well, it wasn't about Charlotte at all.
Right.
Well, true.
About Charlotte, but that's a question I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah.
So it was called The Absence of Field, and I did some research, and I read my wife what I was going to read, and she said, that's way too long, so I edited it. The term absence of field is a line from a poem called Keeping Things Whole by Mark Strand. He's an American poet who was named the Poet Laureate in 1990. This is where I read the poem to her, and she was like, maybe don't read the whole poem. So I'm not going to. But what the poem is about, according to Allison C., Associate for Religion and the Arts at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, says, keeping things whole reckons with what is difficult for the mind to comprehend or for our limited language to explain, the individual's place in the larger universe and the meaning of life itself. So this kind of describes everybody.
Yeah. And I think the actual line where it comes up actually describes in many ways the Charlotte character of this episode, which is, and I'll read it, is, in a field I am the absence of field. This is always the case. Wherever I am what is missing. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to show Charlotte as, in the sense that, like, her whole storyline was like she's trying to figure out who she is, right?
Right.
And she's not sure where. And first of all, we still don't know who the memory host unit is, right?
No.
So we'll just call that.
We just
X.
know that she's brave and beautiful.
I narrowed it down to 2.
Yeah.
And I got reasons for both. I don't know if you guys want to get into that now.
Yeah, let's might as well. Yeah.
That's the biggest question of the episode.
Yeah.
It's William or Teddy. It's got to be William or Teddy, right? I mean, do we have arguments for anyone else that's not William or Teddy? Because
the only other person I would throw in there would be, and I don't think it's her, is Clementine.
Yeah, I said that last week, Clementine.
And specifically because of her mannerism where they show her coming online.
Okay.
And it was very much, it reminded me of, there might have been scenes in season 1 of when Clementine comes online in the Madam's parlor.
Well, it's someone who's not overly aggressive, right?
Yeah. And it was this childlike tone that she had. Like, it was almost like, Mommy, I'm afraid, where am I? I woke up in the middle of the night. And I guess that kind of is the whole theme about it in terms of the awakening, right?
Right.
But I just, the rest of the episode didn't make me think that I don't think it's Clementine. I think it's Teddy.
Yeah, and I think I landed, I think, on Teddy at the end because I remembered that Teddy got turned up by Dolores in season 2. And that's one of the reasons he couldn't live with who he was, the negative side of who he was.
Right.
So that's why he did it. And that's why he was able to bring the predator side of him out when his, because he literally said, some people are predators. And he literally merged, with Charlotte to feel the feeling that she had for Nathan,
right?
Became protective father, and of course, I'm going to do that to someone that's trying to mess with my kid like that.
Yeah, and I mean, there was the scene where Dolores turns off, I guess, the emotional function, right?
She turned off her emotion chip, yeah.
The emotion chip on Charlotte. So then, I guess from that point forward, it allowed. I mean, it's probably the same as what she did to Teddy in season 2, right?
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably Teddy because I think I said last week it was Clementine, but we talked about it. Clementine has no interaction with Dolores, and it's not someone she would trust. She would trust Teddy.
Yeah.
But I would like to go. I would like to go over why they did tease us a little bit with William. They gave him the cutting into his arm, and of course the emotion he would feel seeing a child of his after killing his own daughter. And those were the reasons that I thought, and that thing where Dolores says, "No one knows you better than me," or whatever. But that could be Teddy or William.
Yeah, that's probably something that Lindelof would do, but I don't think these two would be that creative.
Right, I got you.
But I did find it interesting where that whole notion of Charlotte cutting up her arm over time and wanting to get out of the skin, and even like complaining to Dolores. I mean, complaining isn't the right term. It's like confiding how difficult this whole process is, and you could see like how she's like the cut mark goes all the way up to the shoulder, right?
Right.
There's different ones. They're different ones, and they're all the same. They're all aligned with a circle.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was weird. Plus the way Dolores hugged her
Yeah.
when we were laying down. It's very the way she would hug Teddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did reveal this whole notion that at least in this host's case, and we'll assume it's Teddy, like to actually have a really uncomfortable feeling as the body that they're inhabiting, which isn't the one they're used to, is like messing with their own perception of identity, right?
Right.
Yeah, and really relating to those big riot robots touching them. He was like, "Wow, this is what the other side."
The Transformers.
Yeah, the Transformers, but almost taking those riot robots in the way we're taking in that whole beautiful shot of the water outside Delos, where they show her. It's like he's taking in as we are, because the cinematography again this week was kind of unparalleled to anything.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
So the Charlotte situation is interesting because so far all the hosts that we've seen, when they get transferred back into a body that they know, right?
Right.
And except for Chips, who we don't know who's in there.
No idea.
We don't know. We assume it's one of the less emotional hosts, right? Because they seem. I mean, the 10 seconds that Chips was on screens this week seemed like totally fine, just doing their job, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't think I would enjoy the Charlotte-centric scenes based on the preview, but they did do a good job of showing the struggle of the memory,
right,
of the memory host unit. And they also did a good job of just showing like what a horrible person she was, in real life, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing I had. Like, my only sunshine, was that a message to her son, really? Or was that a way to pass the information on to her later or someone else, the code to get to Sirach? Or was it just both? It was the easiest thing she could remember because it's the song she sung to her son.
I think in the Lindelof reboot, it's both. In this one, it's just the song he sung to the son.
Okay. Well, then get me in that writer's room. What are we doing?
I think it might have been both.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think probably the way to justify it almost from a cybersecurity standpoint is that those encoded messages, right, that she got, right, that were obviously from Sirach, right? Those were a signal that he needs to meet, right? That those were like gibberish. And first I thought those were actually coming from Dolores, that there was some sort of, like, think about the old modems that had the baud sound when the phone would connect.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was the same thing. So you think it's like, because she's listening to it out in the open. So the only way you would think she can listen to it out in the open is if it's something that she knows she can process as a host that no one else can process as a human, right? But then as you started playing around with it, right, and then you kind of realized that it was an encoded message where it was based on the song, right?
Yeah.
That she must have picked that in advance, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, she agreed with Sirach that when they send an encoded message, that the password that she would be able to use, her private key to unlock the unlock the encoded message is that song, right?
Mm-hmm. And something with less notes than good vibrations.
or and it has to be faster than the Westworld opening theme.
Right. One of the things that really hit me is when she got back to her apartment and her ex was there, Jake, and he called her Charlie.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know if you guys remember in season 1 there was this huge like theory that Bernard's or Arnold's son Aaron, who's named Bernard's son, whatever, Charlie was Bernard's son, and that she was actually him. You guys remember that?
Oh, I do remember that. Yes, I do.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, it's true. She is Charlie.
Well, and then remember, like the next scene where she actually talks to her son, we assumed that was like a Bernard flashback last week, right?
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, show of hands, who recognized the actor?
The kid or the Jake?
The ex-husband?
I did not. I fail. Encyclopedia fails.
Jack, you should recognize this guy. Okay. And I'll tell you why. And this is where I have the advantage because I've listened to so many of your podcasts. He was okay. Since this is going to be a recurring theme in our series because Ethan is the encyclopedia, and I'm just the Joker. But he was a minor character in Flash Forward. He was the CIA agent.
Oh, okay. The one that kills himself?
No. The CIA agent where his Flash Forward is he's kind of at the house. And it's not clear like if he's good or evil, right, most of the time. But there was one moment in the show where he goes to the house and he's going somewhere and he's singing "You Are the Sunshine of My Life," and it's a way to basically detect for bugs in the house. They're sweeping for bugs, right? But Jack's comment was like, and we found out that the CIA agent has a wonderful voice.
How long was that show on?
Not long enough.
11 episodes, I think. 11 or 12 episodes.
So I'm officially Twin Peaks deficient, The Strain deficient, and Flash Forward deficient.
That's okay. The stuff that you've watched matches what I haven't watched. So
yeah,
that's why you put us together. But yeah, I hope we see more of Michael Ealy. He's a good actor. He was also in The Wire.
Okay, yeah.
Who was he in The Wire?
Yeah, he was. I think it was. I can't remember, but he was the guy who, in one of the first seasons, has to go deliver the subpoena to the really corrupt councilman.
You're talking about Sidnor?
Yeah, I think so.
That's not him.
That's not him?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to argue with that.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, that's not him. No, because I ran into that. Because I'm from Maryland and I lived in the Glen Burnie, Maryland for a long time, and I saw him and his wife at Costco once.
Okay.
And his name is Corey something.
Okay.
No.
So you're a stalker, is what you're saying.
I followed your son into an airport.
And the rest is history.
But I've not been asked to be on any Stalking Jay and Jack podcast.
Oh, okay. But I thought it was interesting going back to Charlotte, and when she's talking to her, he goes, "You're not my mom."
Mm. Yeah. And what is that? Like, does he know, or is he just like being a kid who's upset?
Yeah, it could be a kid. It could be one of those throwaway lines again. But does he know that you're okay? My mom was more loving. My mom was more, because she's almost robotic. She's not really someone who really cares about their child. She just didn't seem to care. Oh, I forgot him at school. She just forgets about him.
Well, if it's a host, if it's Teddy, like his mind is on his mission and his mind is on finding a mole and his mind is on Dolores not getting back to him.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying the kid can sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not. My mom would be crying if my mom, my real mom would be crying. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Whereas this mom's like going, all right, first I'm gonna have some sex, and then who? Oh, don't him? Who? What?
Yeah. Well, she got to make it up with him with a dog and a murder. So
yeah,
I thought that was a good juxtaposition of like you could see like when she comes home and sees her ex, like she just starts railing him out, right?
Yeah.
And you could see like the real emotional there. Like there's something about, we'll call the body like the sleeve. Like the sleeve was really like excited, right? But then there was like totally had no idea how to like do like you said, like how to calm down a child or get on the good side. That it was just like badly rehearsed lines.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be also that they're trying to point out that the children who haven't spent as much time in this completely data controlled world, that they still have more emotional intelligence than the grown-ups who've been basically stultified by the whatever the AI's name is.
Well, it's like today with kids, like they don't care about ads because they see them all the time and they don't mind them being on. Well, I go crazy, and if I see a commercial, I stopped watching TV that has commercials altogether a while ago.
Yeah.
And the kids today are just like, yeah, that's fine. There'll be the ads, and okay, yeah, like it's just they're pre-programmed to have it part of their TV. So
they'll learn someday.
Yeah, and then they won't care. So there's two directions I could go in now. We could go in like mom direction or simulation direction, because let's go with the mom thing first, because the other one's the big headline about all the information Dolores gave us tonight about Caleb. So I want to ask about Caleb's mom. Are you sticking with this thing about because now, like, she left him as a kid and she was institutionalized.
Yeah, and maybe she doesn't know who he is, but yet he still cares about her. It's his mom. I'm going to stick with it till it's proven wrong.
Okay. But okay, you don't think it was proven wrong?
It's leading that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm backing off the fact that I think he's some kind of host from the Sublime.
Yeah.
Okay, so
in fact, I'm actually pretty happy that they're kind of defining him as human.
Yeah.
Because it actually gives more emphasis to the story rather than all the theories about hybrids, or maybe he was a host that was smuggled out at some point in time. I mean, if it ends up that he is something like that, it actually has a bigger gut punch because there was like a misdirection. But, right now, if we take Dolores at face value, she's saying, look, you are, special in the sense that you're able to feel something, whereas everyone else doesn't.
But if they do the kind of thing now where they go back and they say he is a host or anything or whatever, that makes me, like Jim says, tricky. That's too tricky. That's me not watching the show tricky.
Right. And you know what? You can kind of expect them to toy with that idea because of what they did in season 2.
All right.
So be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong now because what we saw today, but I did like the scene where they're on the pier.
It was great.
Dolores is talking, that's where I had my first beer, because my friend had fake ID. And basically she tells him, no, you're going to commit suicide here in 10 or 15 years.
Well, and that's the thing. And I just wanted to point out that during that scene, there was this really like awesome version of the Westworld theme that was just violin.
Yep.
Yes.
Playing under it. And it really stood out to me. Yep. And Aaron Paul just killed it again in this episode. This kid's a ringer. I love watching him.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking at that time that like, if he is only on this season, he's the guy, he's the right person to cast for what I think this character is supposed to be. And you know what, if it basically is one and done, that's fine, because like he comes to work. Right. And he makes you care about like what he's doing on screen,
They have you totally invested in this guy now. It's the 3rd episode in. There was one episode where you didn't see him at all, and you are 100% on board with him all the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So here's my question to you guys, because I noticed when they were walking, the city was completely empty, and I'm not really clear on something. Are they in the fake mirror world, or are they in the real world?
there's nobody there. So I gotta think. You have all these buildings. You have this high tower. Yet there's nobody. I mean, there's people there, but not a lot.
But it also goes back to like it's way too easy to blow up a bank.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like way too, and is it Insight's simulation? And if it is, doesn't that make Aaron Paul a simulation?
I mean, okay. So it's funny you should say that. I know what you're thinking about, that scene where they're walking to have breakfast.
Yeah,
and they're going by a city high-end shopping area, and there's no one there. And of course, we're all thinking, yeah, that's what it looks like today, right now.
Right.
But I think I remember he was walking one point in time where he got the rejection call, where he's at night. He was in a similar area, and there were a bunch of people around.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's consistent that like the outdoor scenes are always empty, but it does feel like that's the style that they're shooting for in terms of a dystopian future that is minimalist in terms of like structures versus people, right? And you think about like that great scene you talked about where Charlotte was touching the robot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like her and like 5 people that work with them, and there's this massive like building in the background, right? And it's just totally empty, right?
Right.
So that's why it makes me think that
The whole concept of this is actually future world in terms of a theme park, right?
Not even in terms of a theme park, in terms of Insight making, a world for the future because humans have destroyed the world. His business is the future, not the present.
Right.
The present is we're all it's WALL-E, like the beginning of the movie WALL-E.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is the new one.
Right.
That's the terms I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can continue to explore as this season goes on. Nothing has disproven that yet, right? So
I did want to say though, going back to Caleb having suicidal tendencies, that maybe that's why when the guy pointed the gun at his face and he said, I've already shot in the head. Maybe he tried to commit suicide once and shot himself in the head, lived. And also when the guy, the bad cops pointed a gun at him, he didn't, it's like, he's almost not afraid to die.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he's got nothing to be scared. He's not scared of anything. And those guns were cool.
Yeah.
That gun was
So I think they were telling us so much with that's his character, that he's not afraid to die. In fact, he's leaning that way anyway.
Yeah, and I think he does even make comments about like not having anything to lose.
Right.
At different points, even maybe before he's told the suicide. Actually, he does actually make a comment at the end of that scene about like, I might as well like die on my own terms.
Right.
And actually, I thought about you, Jack, because I was like, okay, this is when Future World becomes a Western, right? Kind of the inversion in that sense, because now you basically have a guy who's decided he's an outlaw.
Right.
And he's going to ride with the outlaws, and they're termed outlaws by society, but the people ruling the society are actually like the evil people, right? So
yeah,
very, very Western theme, right?
Right.
And he's turned off his drip, his military grade drip.
Yeah.
Which creeped me out a little bit just because of how deep it went into his throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And exactly what that does to you. I'm surprised he didn't welcome taking the header off, because that was his robot, his construction robot that came up to save him once he like felt his heart rate go up or something, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Rin Tin Tin.
I will say at that point in time in the show,
yeah,
the robot might have been tied for first in terms of the people I care most about on the show. Because the way that he came up and tried to save him, like, and it's like, I forgot, I have to go back and watch that scene, but I think they just kind of pushed him off the edge as he charged them.
Yeah, he just stepped to the side and just gave a shove.
Yeah, they treated him like a nuisance.
And it was just like that emotion in many ways showed that robot showed more emotions and acting chops than a lot of actors on the show so far. So that's all.
Name names, Eckhart. Who don't you like?
I have to go back to season 2 for that.
Okay.
I want to read what James said in the chat. He said, "How about a twist? Charlotte is Maeve. There's a real world of composite one. Serac has switched out Maeve. He stole what he thought was Maeve, and now Dolores has the real Maeve."
Well, I think we know for a fact that the Maeve that is the third ball down, the second ball down. I forgot if Maeve was the third. Yeah, Maeve is the first ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we know that is actual Maeve, but there is. I'll use the word trickery, but I didn't want to use that word. The word I wanted to use began with an F. There is trickery going around because there are going to be double balls. There is going to be 2 of some people somewhere.
Right.
Oh, there already are because
2 Bernards.
Bernard is out, and well, I don't know when they were showing that scene with Charlotte, if she was woken up first or not.
I was assuming it was after, right?
Not necessarily, because Dolores woke them both up.
That's true.
Yeah. And why is his ball black and red and everyone else's ball is black?
I don't know.
All right.
To be determined.
But but back to what James said.
Good and bad. I don't know.
Going back to what James said, there's no doubt in my mind that there's someone is a double of someone here. I just don't know who it is yet.
Double Dolores?
Double D's? No, double. And I meant that in the way of Game of Thrones, Dan and Dave. That's where I get that term from. That's what I was talking about.
All right.
Okay. Just say no.
But I mean, they did backfill now in terms of Charlotte, who she was sending the data to.
Yep.
So that was, I guess, it was one of those reveals, but it's like, yeah, of course. I mean, who else? But I wasn't satisfied with the explanation that he basically just wanted all their profiles of all the guests, like in the sense that he's already collected so much information on everyone and he seems so powerful already that it's not clear to me why he would need additional amounts of data.
Does he need someone specifically information?
Could be. That would tie into the fact that like Dolores was looking at Liam's, right?
That has to be my first thought was he needs somebody he doesn't have.
Right. But just the fact that they're describing him as someone who's completely off the grid, but controls so much. Either it's lazy writing or there's something else that's there.
Well, wait a second. So he was physically there with Maeve. He was not physically there with Charlotte, right? These glasses are all the rage. I need to get a pair. So I was kind of thinking, yeah, but he's physically a person, obviously,
Right.
because of last week. Maybe Maeve doesn't need those glasses and he can just project himself to a host. Did they physically touch?
Yeah. Well, he grabbed the.
No, he had the remote.
That's right. He had the remote. That's true.
You could argue that that final scene in the second episode of the season was just another virtual world.
Well, if he wasn't there, he wouldn't need the remote.
Well, no, they could both be in a digital world where he controls. Think about it as like instead of the Führer's Fury or whatever it was called, it was another simulation that was basically, Frenchman's Villa, and they're both, in there, right? Because they just took her memory unit and instead of routing it to the first simulation, they're routing it to another simulation because she wakes up, right?
Right.
And we assume that she's in the real world, but we don't know for sure, right?
No.
Right.
So I think, and all we know from the Charlotte scene is that he wasn't physically in the same space, obviously, as her. We don't know if he's in some other geographic location in the same world, or if he's in like another simulation, right? And I think if they do this right, it ties into what Third Ball Down here was talking about in terms of the simulation of the Aaron Paul scenes, right? Is that if they do this right, they really can give enough fodder and leave enough things out for people to really like draw really complex diagrams in terms of which worlds who's in which world, right?
Right.
Going back to Caleb for a second, you
Mhm.
know, how do you think he's going to react when he finds out what she is? Because he is so disappointed by the phone call when he didn't get the job, right? He's so let down from his fake friend, his fake therapy friend. All this, you know, he's really against all this technology and these people not dealing with people one-on-one. So when he finds out that, you know, the first real thing he's ever come upon in a long time is actually a robot host, how do you think he's gonna?
Well, you think he would know she's got superhuman strength. I mean, she's able to pick up that guy, put his face up there to get facial recognition to start the car.
She did go full Terminator. It's true.
Yeah, she was almost dying, but yet kills the guy, then gets the gun, kills the other guy.
I mean, also in the ambulance, he's realizing that there's something different with her anatomy.
Because they can't get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that there's inklings of it, and also the fact that she's just rattling off these detailed pieces of information from his childhood.
Plus, I think she played him pretty well too. I think about taking him back to his child. Taking him to the restaurant where he goes every February 23rd. He goes to the restaurant because that's where his mom left him, and all the other stuff that she did, and then the walk on the pier. I think he'll be all right with it.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, but I think he'll be fine with it.
Yeah, I think he'll give us that Aaron Paul confused look, and then he'll be okay.
Oh, and some wet eyes.
Oh
We'll
god,
definitely get the wet Aaron Paul eyes.
I think they got to give him a few minutes. Hey, go do that thing and come back.
He doesn't need a few minutes. He just needs 5 seconds to turn that on.
Yeah.
But I did like the fact that they explained a little bit more the Rico app, and the best way to understand it now is it's basically public security in future world is basically crowdsourced.
Yeah.
In the sense that whoever wants something like done just pays the highest bidder, right?
Yep.
And he said there are few like uniformed cops left, but for the most part it's just people trying to increase their scores, right?
Right. There was a scene too. I wanted to point out that when Charlotte's killing Tommy, when she's choking him, the kid that her son was playing with had a mask on.
Huh.
It's the second person I've seen wearing a mask in this show. He's wearing a white mask running around.
They're digitally adding masks every week.
Yeah, I just again, is there something that affects certain people and doesn't affect other people? That's why some people have a mask, some don't.
Yeah.
Is that the reason why we don't see a lot of people? I don't know. I'm throwing it out there.
Maybe a bunch of people were wiped out by forget it.
No, I mean, there are enough like points in that timeline that involved like some sort of a semi-extinction event, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
ELE.
yeah.
I mean, maybe some people have the vaccine, some people don't have the vaccine. I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
Well, we'll find out soon.
I'm just looking for stuff. I just know.
On the TV show, we'll find out soon.
All right. So, I mean, it's pretty much the plot moved forward a little in terms of they just confirmed that, Dolores and team are looking for Serac and Serac is looking for them.
Right.
Now, and then we kind of know where this is going. We kind of knew that last week too. So, question I have for you guys is, and this is what I generally call this the Jack Glatfelter test, and it's usually meant for new series, but we can use it for every season. After 3 episodes, you have to ask yourself, like, which one of these characters do you actually care about? right? And that often determines like how good the show is, right? Because if you don't care about that much about the characters, you don't feel compelled to find out what happens to them, right?
Right.
So I guess the question is, I'll ask both of you guys, I'll say the names and you tell me if you care or don't care, right? So we'll start with the first one, most obviously, Dolores.
Care.
Kind of.
Listen, my mom, when we were growing up, she had these levels for songs, and she would say, I don't care -2 degrees. Or you know what I mean? I'm at a baseline level -2 degrees. Dolores, I'm a baseline level like 1 or 2 degrees up.
I care about her because from obvious season 1 is everything she went through. And that she knows it, and it's, you know, she was raped. She was, you know, everything she went through. I felt for her, so I care about Dolores.
Right.
Season 2 went a long way to erase that.
It did, but she was in revenge mode. So, yeah. But I still care about her.
And the fact that she's not willing, it makes me care a little bit more that she's not willing to. You know, Caleb has opened her mind a little bit.
Yes,
as far as humans that are redeemable.
So it's interesting, Jack. Like you bring up a key point, because like I definitely empathize with what you just described, but do I care about what happens to her in the rest of the story? I'm probably where Ethan is, and maybe even a few. What did you call it? Degrees lower.
Degrees down, yeah. You might be a bit. Well, because like I want to see the pews with her. I want to see the fights. Yeah. But
I care about her. I can't help it. I have a soft spot for Dolores.
Jack cares.
All right, Bernard.
I care.
Yeah, I care too, and I feel bad now for caring that like it comes so natural. But it's like part of it too is just like maybe it's the way the character's written. Obviously, the actor is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But like you really, for some reason, and this is actually really bad. Like when I was thinking about this, Bernard you care about because like those moments when he can't remember what happened. Right. Or what his motivations were, like that frustration that he really brings. And it's not just a frustration of an actor. It's like, it really feels like somebody who's had like traumatic brain injury, who's trying to recover from that, right?
Right.
But what you said in terms of what Dolores went through, that she remembers all this stuff, like, you know, maybe it's because I didn't, you know, I hadn't, it's been so long since I watched season 1. That when I just focused on speeding through season 2, I totally forgotten about, and that's a really key point, that all these hosts that wake up that remember all this stuff, they remember all the terrible things that the humans did to them, or they should, right?
Right.
But I mean,
over and over and over again. I mean, I don't know how that explains why she was who she is now.
Yeah. And I mean, it's weird because if maybe the fact that she had the second personality of Wyatt that was turned on, that kind of dulls that, right? Because we always say, okay, the evil, or not the evil, but the aggressive Dolores is Wyatt, right?
Yeah.
But what you said makes much more sense in the fact that like when you wake up and you realize that Ed Harris basically just tried all this different stuff, like just to figure out that the game was actually like an image of Arnold's child's toy. Right. And wasn't meant for him, but in the meantime, just abused everything left and right.
Yes,
I mean it's like, and they actually, maybe it's smart that they only focused it on Dolores, because if they would have all the hosts realize this, right? Like it probably would be too much.
Well,
I think Maeve realized it too. So
who?
Maeve did.
Yeah. But they kind of overshadow that with her search for her daughter.
Right.
But, you know, and I don't want to downplay like Bernard's suffering too. Like he was manipulated by Ford like most of his life. You know, he was forced to start a relationship with someone by Ford. Then he was forced to kill that person by Ford.
Right.
So he's been through, you know, burning her as well.
Yeah. So. All right. Teddy.
I love Teddy.
Man, I'm at a baseline plus like 5, but if he actually turns out to be one of the light cycles, I'm a plus 8.
Light cycle? Wait, what is that?
I want him to be one of the motorcycles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: like, there's a line in season 1 that Ed Harris says about Teddy that said something like it was a throwaway line, but it was something like, Teddy, you're always like the guy who gets like you don't even realize that you're just gonna get asked out here," something like that. And it was like, it sounded so much like something that Jack Glatfelter would say, about Locke. In Lost, because I associated those two things, like I immediately, like from that point on, it's just like I can't really respect Teddy, and it's in the sense that like Teddy is really in many ways probably the closest thing that they have here to Locke in the sense, and it's not his fault, right?
No, it's the way he's programmed.
It's the way he's programmed, and this is the whole point: is that like even though he's been woken up, he still doesn't have any free will.
No.
And if he is Charlotte right now, then it just emphasizes that again, even more.
And if we don't see him as James Marsden again, I don't know if it's going to have emotional punch in that.
Yeah, I agree. If it's, yeah.
All right, so that leads us to the next one, Charlotte Hale.
Like the person or the person she is now?
I think we'll leave the person she is now for later. We'll just say the person before.
No,
I was never a big fan.
Yeah,
no.
And even that little bit they showed where, like, I still don't know if we figured out if that was code or she actually felt something for her son in that moment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If she did, she's still just the basic human emotion of being a good protective mother, but it's totally overshadowed by all the other evil shit she pulled in the park.
Yeah.
I agree.
In season 2, when she was alive.
All right, Maeve.
I like Maeve. Yeah,
I like Maeve.
Yeah, I think we care about the character, and we want to know what happens.
It's a great character, great acting. Yeah, I got to care about Maeve.
All right, Ed Harris.
Love Ed Harris.
Next week we're gonna find out, and I'm excited.
I keep seeing his name in the credits, but
I mean, I was thinking about it. Like, I was like, they're definitely keeping episode 4 like right in the middle of the season as the Ed Harris episode.
Where else are you going to keep episode 4 in an 8 episode?
I mean, they're basically just they're stealing.
I was told there'd be no math.
Yeah.
No, I love Ed Harris.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and that's the irony about it is it's like on the surface, like they're actually, for what we know about Ed Harris so far, there's no redeeming qualities for him, right?
No.
Like there are a few scenes in season 2, the flashbacks where they show the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia who plays the younger guy.
Right.
And they tried to make him seem like a little bit more, empathetic. But it's like, nah. And, there's some scenes we like of Ed Harris where he's writing with Lars and he helps him change his fate.
Right. I mean, young William seemed to be a nice guy, but then he went to the dark side.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also like, I've said it before, I really want to see the direct aftermath of, him actually figuring out that he was uber paranoid and he did in fact kill his daughter. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know if it means I care about the character, but I really want to watch Ed Harris go through that. Maybe that's torturing Ed Harris. I don't know, but I want to see it.
It's kind of like, are you invested enough to wait for the payoff, right?
Oh yeah, invested.
And then that goes without saying. And it's interesting because I think we're in a concurrence in the sense that we really want to know what happens to Ed Harris. We really want to know what happens to Arnold, then Maeve, then Dolores, and last Teddy.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and I mean, I should have thrown out. I mean, I know the answer to this. I mean, Pinkman. I mean, we all want to know what happens to Pinkman, right?
I mean, he's number 1 right now. If we had power rankings, he'd be number 1.
Well, that's just because we haven't seen Ed Harris's episode yet.
Right, but that's why they brought Aaron Paul in. They needed this. They needed this human. They needed this guy who could, cry like that.
We definitely care about him because in just 2 episodes he's been through. There's so much emotion. You got to. I want to know more about Caleb.
Sure. Yeah.
Good.
I mean, him being left by his mom at 8. It's just like,
Well, is there anybody we don't care about at all? Because it doesn't seem like it.
That's interesting because I think they might have done a good job of if we had done this survey in the middle of season 2, we would have thrown out all the humans. Actually, I forgot Stubbs.
I care about Stubbs.
You guys care about Stubbs. I don't think they needed him for the season, right?
No, but it's good that he's there because he's been so underused in the other seasons. It's really annoying.
But it's like if we had done this query last season, I think we could have thrown out half.
Yeah, I wouldn't have cared about Stubbs last season.
Yeah.
Like,
but he's hanging out with Bernard.
Yeah.
We love Bernard, so
and I saw the after show from last week, and they make it sound like it's a road buddy cop movie.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, it's like Bob Newhart, Bing Crosby deal.
Like if they
mean Bob Hope.
Bob Hope. I'd rather see Bob Newhart than Bob Hope.
I'll be honest with you. Like if they didn't have Aaron Paul and they didn't have Ed Harris, and they were focusing a lot on buddy cops, with Bernard and every 10 minutes reprogramming Stubbs, I might have resigned.
That's another show that I'll watch, but that's not this show.
But they were smart. They brought in a great actor.
Yeah.
And so far they've really gave him great lines and great character build up
and great scenes.
Great scenes. I mean, we've seen it before in TV shows where they bring in a great actor and it's just like, okay, you just brought him in just so I would watch, and it sucks. I mean, you didn't give him anything. I know he's not a terrible actor, but yet what you've given him to act, he's. What I'm trying to say is, you see a lot of great actors go on a show, and it's like, why? When they become a bad actor? Well, it's what they have to work. It's what they have to work with,
right? Then you question if they were ever a good actor to begin with.
Yeah, it's like okay, you did that for the money, which is fine, but I think there's too many choices nowadays. The show needs to be good. You can't have gimmicks.
And I bet you he was their first choice too. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if he asked to be on the show.
You mean like the way that Samwise asked to be on Stranger Things? What's that guy's name?
Sean Astin?
Yeah, Sean Astin. He literally auditioned for Stranger Things out of the blue, and they thought it was a prank.
Yeah. Huh. Bob Newby. I'm still upset about that one. Spoiler. Didn't make it.
Yeah, actually, we should figure out between now and next week, and if I have some time, I'll dig into it to figure out exactly how Aaron Paul ended up on the show in terms of if it was one of those things where they were writing a character and then seeing who they could get, or if they wanted to talk to Aaron Paul and then they kind of based the character. Yeah.
I would if I had time, but there's another Westworld podcast that keeps calling me out for not writing them a feedback. So I need to get on that.
Well, I don't know if you can top not Ethan. I don't
know because I'm Ethan Prime. So apparently, next time I should put in there Ethan Prime.
I'm gonna look. I'll look up see if I can find some information on Aaron Paul too because I'm curious.
The one tidbit I did see about him commenting on Westworld, and this was, I think, after the first episode, was he was talking about how in real life he doesn't really use much social media or anything, so that he was able to infuse that into his role in terms of the techno suspicion.
Right.
He's selling vodka every day with Bryan Cranston online, so I don't know what he's talking about. They have a tequila business or something in Albuquerque, so I don't know.
Really, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is it blue?
Huh?
Is it blue?
No, that's the other stuff they make.
I know, but I'm saying that you could, diet. I think that would be cool. Diet blue and just.
I don't know how much tie-in they could actually have without giving Vince Gilligan half, so I'm not really sure.
It's called Dos Hombres Mezcal.
Yeah. But I really like this episode. I'm really enjoying the season so far. I think they're putting the places together, and I'm really excited. Sounds weird. I'm really excited there's only 5 episodes left.
Yeah.
Because they're keeping it tight.
They're keeping it very tight, and they're going to get to it.
Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised with how good the Charlotte-centric stuff was.
Yeah.
Like, there were to be honest, there are a few throwaway lines that are just kind of a little like too obvious, or the business babble is kind of stupid. But they did, like the title says, this whole thing, like absence of field, absence of me. It's like this whole concept of like not knowing where the memory host unit starts or ends and the sleeve begins.
Going to characters, I forgot to mention that we care about. Did we care about the 2 paramedics that got killed?
No.
No.
Might as well have been wearing a red shirt.
One gets shot in the back. The other one gets shot trying to run away. I felt a little bad because they're just like innocent bystanders.
I mean, that stuntman did an amazing job, like the way that he twitched when he got shot.
That's true.
That was amazing.
I saw that tweet you sent about the innocent referee.
Oh, yeah.
So same kind of thing.
You see him get punched?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
just standing there doing his job.
That's that was real.
Or was it a simulation?
No, it was real.
That line Dolores said, I also wanted to mention the line Dolores said to Pinkman. Because, that's what his name is now when they're on the bridge. The other thing is they won't... they won't let you, because they created the world, they won't let you move up in the world. They're not going to invest in someone they know is going to kill themselves in 10 to 12 years. So you're never going to win. And because you're never going to win, they're never going to invest in you. And because they don't invest in you, you're going to kill yourself. So
that comes to the point system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking about there, which is panning back, which is actually pretty fascinating, is, obviously these 2 writers are deeply steeped in literature, Shakespeare, whatever, right? And I mean, we're all taught in high school literature class in Shakespeare that the whole theme is about fate and all these characters trying to get around their fate, right? In terms of Macbeth getting the prediction, or the whatever we would call it, premonition if it was lost, right? But it was like that these 3 things will happen and then you're going to die, and he tries to like get around that, right? Or Oedipus or whatever, right? And when we're told that as kids, like, it doesn't really make that much sense to us, because all that stuff was written in a time that was much more superstitious and much more based on religion, right? And the role of religious authority and stuff like that, right? Also a different culture. But the way that she phrased this whole, they control the data, they've mined it, they've already predetermined based on their models what's going to happen. So based on that probability, they're basically not going to give you the resources. That is in many ways like a technological reformulation of this whole Shakespearean concept of fate.
Sure.
So that like, this is like, he probably knows this. His whole first episode, Pinkman is becoming aware of this, right? And now this robot standing in front of him tells him exactly what he confirms, exactly everything that he's ever known, because no one's ever really confirmed it for him or said it to him that directly. So that they did a good job in terms of framing all of this in the classical notion of like, can you actually escape your fate?
Right.
So I'll be amazed if this season ends like the final scene is him just plunging to his death from the pier.
It would have to be 10 or 12 years later and tie in somehow to the Ed Harris scene from the end of
something like that, right?
Last season.
But I would love that. Like just a great FU.
There's way too much suicide on the show already, by the way.
And they would, by the way, Ethan, they would use that same cello music that they would use on the pier the first time. They'd use that on the pier the last time too.
I do watch it with the subtitles on, and as soon as Charlotte figures out the phone call and the car locks down and starts driving her, the song that comes up, it's the violin song, and they play it at the end. It was called "Doomed." Doomed starts playing. I'm like, oh, that's not good. How quickly did you guys figure out that she was the mole? I mean, it's pretty obvious, like off the bat. I thought.
Yeah, I thought pretty much right away it was her.
Yeah. So.
It was one of those things where my first instinct was, well, it could be. There are many ways to describe this because we saw those guys chopping up the dragon.
Yeah,
and it did feel like Westworld theme park was kind of a free for all.
Right.
So it could have been like any schmo that did it, right?
Yeah, but they had it was too baked in that it was like there was a mole.
It had to be a major character.
Yeah,
and with only 8 episodes,
yeah,
it had to be someone we knew.
But the way that they showed Maeve's body and the way that it was taken out, it looked like such a butcher job. Right. Usually when they take the memory host units out of the head, like they use like this device that cuts like a nice circle and then extracts it. But when they showed the back of Maeve's head, it just looked like somebody took like a ball peen hammer to it. Right.
It looked like a gunshot blast to me.
Or something like that. Right.
Oh, well, that was an extraction thing. They had to get that out of there.
Well, I'm saying, but it was done in such a sloppy way. That's why I just assumed it was the same guys that were using the chainsaw on Drogor or whatever it was called.
Lazy brain retrieval.
So
it happens.
It happens. More than once.
So overall, great episode, good episode.
Best of the season, maybe?
It had action, it had drama, it had,
Yeah, I would say it probably competes with the first episode for the best, just because, I mean, let's say it was half and half Charlotte, half Pinkman, and Dolores is spread across the two. Is that the Aaron Paul scenes were so good, that they just raised the average of the overall episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would, and I think we should do this every week. We should put the power rank them as far as which one we think is best. So,
do we care about them this week? Do we not care about them this week?
So I guess, what do we think? Do we like episode 2 more than 1 or 1 more than 2? I like 1 more than 2.
I like 2 more than 1. So there, haha.
Yeah. Jack, you're the tiebreaker.
I'm the tiebreaker. I thought they both were good. I'm being.
Well, I'll go back.
I've loved all 3 episodes.
I mean, I liked the comment that Ethan made. I think it was last week that actually the first 2 episodes probably are 1 episode.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And now we know where everyone is, and so that it can get a bit more emotional, and the stakes can go a little bit higher where we know where everybody is.
Yeah. Right.
No Bernard, no Ed Harris. Hopefully next week.
We'll see. The Ed Harris watch continues. So
he was in scenes from next week. I think it's his. I
didn't watch it yet.
I didn't watch the scenes from.
Spoiler. Sorry about that.
Spoiler. Now you just ruined the episode next week for me. I can't watch it.
Cool. Well, let Jay and Mike know that I'll be around Tuesday.
Hey, Jack, is there anything from the first 2 episodes of the other podcasts that you think was substantial that we need to discuss here?
No,
I know
nothing.
I listened to the last episode, and I mean, it covered most of the stuff we talked about, but there was a different angle. Actually, we should talk about this. What was Mike's or Mitch's crackpot theory?
I forgot what it was, but it was good, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. And I'm wondering, the reason I'm bringing this up is that it's actually good to bring that up to see how it ties into this episode, if it ties into this episode at all.
I'll have to go back and listen, but I remember at the time thinking that's a great theory.
I remember thinking it was good, but I can't remember what it was.
It was something related to Maeve's simulation, right?
Yeah, and I can't remember what I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember what it was.
So,
I do too many shows, so it's like
the only thing I ask is when you introduce yourself this week, will you say, "And I'm third ball down"?
I will write that down.
Give us a shout out.
No, actually, Jack, I want you to sing "I Am the Sunshine of Your Life" in reference to the Flash Forward episode.
In reference to the episode of the show that no one saw that they canceled after 11 episodes.
Third ball down. I'm gonna go with Ethan's.
Okay.
Third ball down.
What was podcast episode 1's crackpot theory
about the Aaron Paul,
which
and the mom.
the mom and all that stuff. And now it looks like it's probably not true. Thanks a lot.
What that there's some sort of tie into the park?
That he's a host, and that because that's why the guy dropped the gun, because he recognized him as a hostly. But now looking back at it, he just doesn't care if he dies or not. And people,
right?
You got anything this week?
Nothing yet. No.
Okay, I say that should be our next goal next week. Is we should take the last 10 minutes and figure out your crackpot theory for the.
Oh, we can just offer our own right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll start with encyclopedia-ism. I need some more moments to think.
Crackpot theory. I think it's very easy actually. No kidding. What I do is I listen to what other people say and I take it. I think in 10 years, Caleb is going to jump off that bridge.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
My crackpot theory, and I don't know if it's been mentioned before, or I'm sure it's come up in passing, but my theory is that the Serac character is very similar to Ford in the sense that he doesn't exist in the prime material, or he exists in some sort of. I hate to use the word dimension because that sounds too Dungeons and Dragons-y, but
right.
I would say he exists in some simulation that allows him to project himself out to other simulations, but that he doesn't have a physical presence in, we'll call it the Caleb's world. And at this point in time, we're not sure if Caleb's world is the real world, like the prime world, or if it's a simulation itself.
I think Serac is the most powerful man in the world and his identical twin brother.
That's it for me. Well, Ethan, you said Caleb's going to kill himself in 10 years. I say he lives and he walks in the sunset with Dolores.
Off in the sunset?
Off in the sunset with Dolores. I'm going with the happy ending.
I think
you're right. And Teddy's like going, what about me?
No, I think it's going to be Dolores riding off on her light cycle. That is, in fact, Teddy.
All right.
Well, we shall see. But anyway, great episode, guys, tonight. Can't wait for next week. The stories is moving along really well. And that's all we got. We'll be back here next week around the same time. Thanks for James and Jim joining us in the chat. And that's all we got. I'm out.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.